Hello, all. I welcome you all to my new vlog. And today, the vlog, the main topic that I'm going to discuss would be the waterfall model. As we are supposed to track each and every aspect in context to a business analyst that he should be aware of and he's supposed to work on. So, we will start with the waterfall model out of all the models that we have in market. So to start with waterfall model, as the name itself it represents, it's a sequential development process, and it flows like water. Means in one direction, you cannot roll back the direction. It's flowing in one direction. Once the place it has gone through, it will not never go back in that same place again. So means there is no rollback of anything that is being done in any phase in context to the model. If we talk about, so it's a very traditional model. It was invented in 1970. It was invented by Winston Royce, and since 1970 it has been extensively used in organizations. There are still some organizations that are using this model to a greater extent, like Toyota. The ones which are having very long and very lengthy projects, they are still using. I would say there are a lot of construction organizations, and still there are some software developments that are happening with this model in use. And here the main thing is that there is no rollback. Rollback means that once a phase completes, then you cannot go back to that phase till the final product is delivered. So no rollback is possible, and the output of one phase, for example, if we talk about requirements phase, the output of requirements phase, it becomes input for the next phase, that is the design phase. And if you see here, it's moving in one direction. You cannot go back to either of this in any phase till it is deployed, it's live, and it's in maintenance. So, and then you cannot go back, as I told you. And this is fully planned, wherein we are very clear with how long the project will go, be it a year or 2 years or whatever is the time and what is the budget. So in this kind of model, we are very clear with that. For example, we say a project is supposed to go for 2 years, so we say that for 2 years we are blocked. And I would say, like, for example, 10 resources are blocked on that project. So 10 resources are supposed to work just on those projects. And this is the budget that organization says that we are supposed to put in into this project. So everything that you are going to do is supposed to be covered in that given budget. There are a lot of documentations in here. Why do we need documentations extensively here is because if you have meetings or anything are discussed internally in the meetings, um, you cannot always recall everything that happened in a meeting 6 months back. So you need to document everything that is being talked about or is discussed about the project. And for that, you need, that turns out to be very lengthy documentations, and proper approvals need to be done. For example, if you are working in requirements phase and they are fixed, okay, that is done. Before you move to design phase, the requirements need to be signed off by the proper team members. For example, we say stakeholders have given the requirements, so they need to say that yes, in a formal documentation that's approved by them, that yes, this is what we have asked, and we give a yes to it, that it should be what should be delivered to us. So this is basically the waterfall model. And if we talk about each phase of it, we start with requirements. Here the main thing is we are trying to analyze what is the ask of business or stakeholders, who are the people who are coming up with the requirement of something new. So we analyze that what is it that they are trying to achieve. And we elicit and document the requirements. Elicit as in we are trying to reach out to multiple group of people or multiple teams, wherein we are trying to find out that what is the requirement of that specific team, because there can be many teams which are involved in that process. So we need to talk to each one of them. This process can take maybe 2 or 3 months, because the project is very long. So requirements phase in itself can take 2 or 3 months. So once requirements are done, then we come up with the design. So in design, we solution what based on what requirements are freezed, we design the solution. And here the best is that we segregate the design into parts. We split it into parts. That, for example, if we are planning to design something like Gmail. So what happens is we design that, okay, one is we will be working on inbox, one is we will be working on outbox or send items or new mail. So these are all the segments, and the main project is creating a mail sending software, maybe something like Gmail or anybody's. And all the segments are all the tabs that we usually see on the software page. So here the main thing is it's always divided into parts, and if you divide it into parts, that's the best way you can actually work the best solution out, or I would say the less errors in a project. So once you are fixed with, okay, we will do all these things, and this is how we will these will all be the features and everything, then we come to the next phase, which is the development. So what happens is that you are finalized that yes, we want one new mail, we want one section which should be sent items, one should be outbox, something wherein the mail which is in the process of from new to sent, the mail will go in that part. So that is so these are all the segments. So once you are done with all this thing, so all that structure will go to the development team. So they will further work on it, that how are they going to automate the system. So they will they will develop based on what is the design that they have received from the design phase. And here only, once you are doing all the development, it's usually the developers who are doing the unit testing. Unit testing is you are testing each uh, module of your code, and you are doing it in on your side, in your whatever software that you are using to develop, and you are trying to run, and you just to see that it's not failing anywhere, you are not getting any kind of errors. So all this is done by the development. And once the development is done, that okay, we have created software which works like Gmail. So what happens, we come to the testing phase. So first, primarily it's supposed to be tested by the internal testing team, or it be a business analyst who is supposed to do. So why business analyst? Because business analyst is the person who is going to conduct UAT with the client. So before he can answer all the questions during UAT, or he can actually confidently conduct UATs, he does testing along with the quality analysts, that are the testers, and to assure that the product is working as is required, as is set in the requirements. So that is done by QA or business analyst. After that is done, in testing phase only, we have UAT, which is done by business. Once that is done, all the segments, they are put together and they are tested together by business. So once everything is signed off, we move on to the deployment phase. Means deployment for a software means moving into the production environment. uh, in UAT, the uh, softwares are usually in the development or the test instance. It depends upon what is the process that an organization follows. Sometimes we have three instances: development instance, test, and the production. So everything that is live is in production, and usually UATs happen in test environment, and the development happens in the dev environment. So softwares are deployed in production, or if it's something hardware, then it is released in the market. So that is deployment. And maintenance is anything issue that comes after a product is used by the end user, that is a bug. So that bug is handled, and that is handled by this entire team, and that is the after the completion of the entire process. So that is the complete process of waterfall model. So now we talk about a model. Everything comes with the pros and the cons. So if we talk about the pros of this project is that we are very clear in context to everything that we are doing. 10 people are working on a project, yes, then it's only 10, the 11th cannot work. Budget is fixed. If you have $100 million as a budget, it will not change. So, and if the timeline is 2 years, it will remain 2 years. You cannot change the timelines. Extensive documentation, as we have already told and discussed, it's to we need to track everything, and to ensure that quality is good and everything is in place, we need extensive documentation. And progress is easily measured, because it's a long project. You easily get to know what is happening and what not is happening. Cons are it's very cumbersome and inflexible. You, for example, in testing you realize no, something was wrong in requirements, but you cannot roll back. You cannot go back by any chance. So that is something, like you are forbidden to do something which you think we should have done. That is something a very big negative or con of this model, I would say. Problems, they are discovered in testing phase. As I told you, in testing you figure out that this requirement is actually causing the issue, but you can do nothing. You cannot change the requirement. You have to accept it. Then lot of documentations are kept, and you see sometimes documentations were like hardware documentations. So you, it's very tough to manage those and keep them updated. So maybe in 6 months you have not updated a documentation, sometime it can happen. So making sure all the documents are up to date, that's itself a big challenge. And there can lot of gaps which can happen between the teams, and there is nothing can be done. So these are some of the challenges that we have with the waterfall model. Now is when we are supposed to use it. We usually use this model when we are very clear that what are the requirements. We are sure that business is very clear what they want. There is no going to, nothing is going to change. And specifically when the projects are very huge, when the requirements is very huge, budget is a lot, at that time we are basically using the waterfall model. And secondly, we there is no pressure that somebody is waiting for return on investments. As in, return on investment means stakeholder is not asking you every second day that, can I see, is it done, is it done, something like that is not happening. They will not come back to you till they are said that you are going to test after 1 year. So they will not poke, they will not come and poke you every time to ask that, is it done, is it done. So there is no pressure as such. Teams are knowledgeable, they should be knowledgeable, and they are knowledgeable. All such teams are put in waterfall model who are having least questions, so that they are not thinking of going back to the requirements team and asking that, see, why you have put in this requirement, or why is the design such. So we need to have good and very we need to have good people with expertise in them, some SME kind of people. Then requirements are stable. As I told you, you cannot change them. Resources are constrained. You cannot add or reduce the resources. And the timelines are strict. Approval flow is very strict. Everything is very strict in this process. So this is the complete process of a waterfall model. But now, as we all know, the time has changed. Now we are not anymore. We are not using this model too much, because what has come into picture is agile. So we will discuss about agile in the coming blog. As of now, if just to precise you some the very key difference which we have between agile and waterfall is that waterfall, it you can break down the software development into isolated phases that flow from one phase to another phase. But in agile, you have a iterative development which happens. It means that you can you can have uh, many things. You can go back for certain things. You can have many things which are running in parallel. It is not that if you are designing something, then development team is not working. No, things are running in parallel, things are iterative, you can go back. So that is completely a contradict of what is the waterfall model, and is very actively used these days. So and is very one of the key feature that is supposed to be known to a business analyst. So we will discuss in details in the coming vlogs about agile from the company working perspective as well. And if you have any kind of questions in context to waterfall model, in context to the difference between agile and waterfall, you can respond to me in the comments below. I will respond to you as per your questions. And going forward, if somebody wants to have the live sessions, I can have the live sessions as well to explain you all the queries that you have. Or if you want to have more company related knowledge, then I can have the live sessions as well for this.